All right, I think that we have all of our guests joining us. Thank you everyone for coming to HitchPin's Lunch and Learn. I am Kristin Cottom. I will be leading today's discussion with our special guest, Renée Laird. Renée has years of experience in the ag industry. She grew up on a farm in Western Kansas, and she has prepared a wonderful message for today's Lunch and Learn on just growing your business and using different tools to do that. So a couple of housekeeping things. If you have a question along the way, drop it in the comment section here. It'll come straight to me. And I'm going to hold those questions until the end so that Renée has a chance to get through all of her content. And then we'll have a short question and answer at the end. But we're so excited that you have joined us today. We're so excited, Renée, that you're here with us and that you've prepared this great message. And I'm going to turn it over to you to tell us a little bit about yourself and take it from there.
I'm Renée Laird. I am, as Kristin said, I grew up on a farm and ranch in Northwest Kansas. I am currently living in Denver, Colorado, and have lived in the biggest urban cities across the states, and have also managed global businesses. So right now I'm consulting in ag tech and doing some coaching, and just want to share some of my thoughts of what I've seen about scaling businesses and how to scale well. So with that, thanks again to everyone for taking the time, and let's just dig in. So, as we talk about scaling well, one of the things that I want to really highlight is that in the next 5 years, there's going to be a lot of small ag and rural businesses that are going to be pushed to grow bigger. More products, more customers, more technology, but many will actually grow themselves into the ground. I'm going to say that one more time. Many will actually grow themselves into the ground. And it's not because they can't sell, but it's because their operations and their mental health just can't keep up. You know this, you're already juggling enough, and I'm not here to stir up any fear or give you a fluffy webinar. What I really want to do is give you a clearer way to think about growth so you can reduce the chaos and not add to it. Most of you don't wake up thinking, how do I scale? You wake up thinking, how do I get orders out? How do I pay my people? How do I take care of customers and not burn out in the process? So today, what I want to do is talk about scaling in a way that actually fits small and medium ag and rural American businesses, how to make them profitable, realistic, and humane. So we want to cover 5 things actually. When scaling actually makes sense is the first one. The second one is why things usually break after the sale as volume increases. The third is we want to talk about how strong teams think about efficiency before they get into a crisis. And the fourth, what scaling well really looks like. And the fifth is what tools like AI or instant invoicing can actually help. So I'm going to keep coming back to a simple framework that you can remember. See, fix, and then fuel. We want to see what's really happening, fix what's breaking, and then fuel what's working. So my goal today is that you walk out with a clearer way to think about your business and 1 or 2 concrete changes that you can make this week, not a long list of shoulds that you'll never have time to do. So let's start with the root problem. Without clarity, your brain doesn't know where to put its energy and focus. And when everything is important, nothing is important. For a lot of you, your world looks something like this. You're selling wholesale to a few bigger customers. You've got some direct to consumer, maybe a farm stand, or maybe a brick and mortar store, and you're trying to keep up with prospects and customers through an email list, a Facebook or Instagram post. You're thinking about more acres, more products, maybe hiring help. But if I asked you which of those are actually driving profit and not just activity, that's a much harder question. Stuck. They're busy, but they don't have clarity. They're not regularly evaluating what's working and what's not working. Things like which products or services actually make money after you count labor and fuel and materials and delivery. How are people really finding you? Is it website, foot traffic, word of mouth, social media? Which promotions or posts actually lead to real sales and not just likes? If you're not looking at those things, you end up guessing, and guessing is expensive. So this is the first part of the framework that I want to talk about. See. You have to be able to see what's going on in a simple way, or you can't fix it, and you definitely shouldn't fuel it. We'll come back to how to do this in a moment, but what does even make sense to think about in scaling is how do we define it? So let's talk about it in plain language. Scaling is not doing more of everything. Scaling is increasing revenue and impact without your costs, chaos, and stress growing at the same pace. Scaling makes sense when 3 things are true. Number 1, you need to have consistent demand. You're regularly selling out of your product, you're back ordered, or you're turning away customers. If the demand is random, you're busy one month and slow the next, you don't have a scaling problem. You have a marketing and a product fit problem. You don't pour fuel on a fire that isn't burning yet. Number 2, you have positive unit economics. That's a fancy term for saying a simple idea, which is for each sale, you know what it costs you, and you know you're actually making money. If it costs you $90 in time, labor, fuel, materials, delivery, so that you're selling something for $100, you're not making $100. You're making $10, as you know. And that's even before we're talking about the overhead. If you're losing money per unit and barely breaking even, scaling just helps you lose money faster. So you need clarity here as well. The third point, you have a basic repeatable process. You can explain in clear steps how someone goes from I'm interested to I bought to I received the product or service. If your process only works because you personally are putting out fires all day and everyone has to come to you with questions, it's not ready to scale. Let me give you a quick story. I worked with a farm that landed a big contract with a regional buyer. And on paper, it was a dream come true. But they had no clear invoicing rhythm, they had no defined delivery schedule, and everything lived in the owner's head. Nothing was written down in a way that any team could follow. So as orders ramped up, deliveries got missed, invoices went out late, cash got tight, and the owner's stress went through the roof. They didn't have a sales problem. They had a systems problem. They tried to fuel growth before they could reliably fulfill it. And that's why the C step, seeing your numbers, seeing your process, is so important. You can't decide to scale until you know, what are my actual profits and sales looking like? How are my customers finding me? Is it online? Is it in person? Is it referrals? What percentage of inquiries actually become paying customers? And how long does it take from that first contact to cash in my bank account? Scaling should really be pouring fuel where the fire is already burning hot. So even if those conditions are in place, there's another trap, which is what usually breaks first when you try to grow. Most small businesses are spending about 95% of their energy on getting customers through advertising, outreach, and sales. But what usually breaks first as you grow is everything after the sale. Think about those steps that happen once a customer says yes. Invoicing and getting paid, scheduling and delivering orders, updating customers with it's ready, it's shipped, we're on our way, handling the problems, returns, damaged goods, the wrong order, warranty issues, follow-up questions. At low volume, you survive with what I call manual heroics. How many of us are doing that? You stay up late, you remember who to bill later, you keep track of things on sticky notes, everything's in your head, and you pull it off barely. But as your volume is growing, those same habits start to hurt you. Cash slows down because those invoices don't go out on time. Customers get frustrated because communication is spotty and your reputation takes a hit. And what does your stress level do? Through the roof. A lot of what we call burnout is really broken operations. And it's not that you suddenly got weaker. It's that your systems are asking your brain to carry way too much. You're handling too many emergencies. There's too many mental to-do lists. There are too many promises you're just trying to keep track of in your head. If you're exhausted and overwhelmed, that's not a personal failure. Most of the time, it's just a sign that your systems are carrying too much on your shoulders and not enough is written down or automated or delegated. So here's one hard rule that can really help you make decisions. If you remember nothing else from today, remember this. Don't add more volume or more products until you can reliably send invoices the same day or have a very clear, consistent invoicing routine. Until you know exactly who owns each step after the sale, and that you can sleep at night without wondering, gosh, what did I forget? If you can't do those three, your focus is not on scaling. Your focus is on fixing your post-sale workflows. And that leads us to how strong teams think about efficiency before it becomes a crisis. There's a key principle that separates teams who are always in emergency mode from those that build sustainable businesses. Your future self will never win against current demands unless you create a structure that protects time for your goals. If you don't protect time, today's fires will always win. People running businesses and leading small teams do three simple things differently. First, they protect time to work on the business. They're not just in it. They block up 1 to 2 hours, maybe more, a week on the schedule during real working hours, not late at night, to step back from the day-to-day. The purpose for that time is looking at the numbers, looking at what's breaking, and deciding what's one small improvement for the week that I can make. If that time isn't on the calendar and protected, it will disappear, because something urgent will always fill it. Second, they decide what to measure on purpose with intention. You don't need a fancy dashboard. You do need a simple scoreboard. And at minimum, they are going to track sales, total dollars, and number of orders, marketing activity, the number of reach outs, the posts, the emails or calls, the conversions, how many of those inquiries become paying customers, and the sales cycle, how many days from first contact to money in the bank. When you see these numbers weekly, you stop guessing where the bottleneck is. You can see clearly, do we not have enough people hearing about us? If not, that's a marketing issue. Do people hear about us, but they just don't say yes? That's an offer, pricing, or trust issue. Do they say yes, but we're slow to invoice or deliver? Well, that's an operations issue. This is the C step again. So seeing what's actually happening instead of operating on hunches. Third, they simplify before they scale. If your workflow has 15 manual steps and 4 different people touching it, the answer is not to do this faster. The answer is simplify first. Ask questions like, what steps can we remove entirely? What steps can we combine? Where can we use a template, a checklist, a technology, or a simple tool? This is the fix part of see, fix, and then fuel. You're fixing the leaks before you turn up the hose. Let me share another quick positive example, another story. So I know a small ag company, an ag supply business that realized that they were trying to be everything to everybody. They were doing lots of products, lots of custom deals, lots of one-off exceptions, and they had to make a different choice in their strategy. So they focused on the 2 most profitable product lines. They decided to standardize their delivery and invoicing steps, consistency of the steps in every single order that was placed. And they added a simple instant invoicing component on a tablet in the truck so the drivers that they were using could send invoices right away after delivery. What was the result? Well, they freed up about 10 hours a month. Cash came in faster, and the owner told me for the first time in years, he was actually getting sleep because he wasn't worried about who he forgot to bill. They didn't grow by hustling harder. They grew by simplifying and then fueling what worked. That's scaling well. So let's talk a little more about what that looks like. When you hear scale, you might think of huge companies or tech startups, and that's not what we're talking about here. In 2026, for rural and ag businesses, scaling well is not becoming a giant. It's about building a business that grows, makes more money, and becomes easier to run, not harder. Scaling well looks like a few very practical things. First, predictable cash flow. You have fewer ugly surprises. Payments come in more steadily. You're not constantly chasing checks or wondering if you can cover payroll. Second, systems that reduce your mental load. You're not carrying everything in your head. More of the work lives in simple checklists, templates for emails and estimates, and then clear routines. The business doesn't just fall apart if one person takes a week off. Third, clear roles and responsibilities and expectations. Everyone knows who sends the invoice, who updates the customer, who packs or delivers the order, who handles issues when something goes wrong. There's less, I thought you were doing it. And fourth, a sustainable workload over the year. You can still have busy seasons because this is agriculture, but it's not 12 months in emergency mode. You have structure, you have rhythms, and you have some time for rest and recovery. Fifth, protecting the time for planning and for your own health means that your future self finally gets a voice. You have time to review numbers and adjust. You have time to think about next season instead of just this week. And you have time to take care of your own body and mind. There's one more angle that matters a lot in rural communities, and that's relationships, those connections that we have in community. When your systems run smoother, you free up time and energy for what rural businesses do best, and that is build and nourish relationships. Knowing customers by name, showing up in your community, taking an extra 5 minutes to really listen. Efficiency isn't about turning into a cold corporate machine. It actually creates space for you to be more human and not less, and to connect in a different way. A successful business that ruins your health, your family, or your peace of mind is not success. Operational efficiency and clear boundaries are some of the most practical mental health tools you'll ever use. And once you've started to see and fix, then tools can come in to help you fuel what's working. So let's talk briefly about tools. There's a lot of noise out there, a lot of different options. And tools don't fix bad processes. Let me say that one more time. Tools don't fix bad processes. If your process is broken, software will just help you do the wrong thing faster. Once you've gained some see and fix, the right tools can help you fuel what works. And you don't have to be a tech expert at the same time. So here's some ideas around some practical categories. You could utilize instant invoicing and digital payments right after you deliver the feed or the equipment, right after you finish the custom work on someone's land, or complete a repair, or do a consulting job. You can send an invoice from your phone, and in many cases, you can take payment on the spot or same day. And the benefits are so simple, right? Faster cash flow, less I'll invoice you later, or I'm waiting for a check in the mail, less paperwork in your head, and less doing things late at night at your kitchen table. The second category is simple AI helpers and technology. And you don't have to understand how AI works to get value from it. You just use it like a smart assistant, because it can turn rough bullet points into clear customer email or a quote. It can draft follow-up messages. It can summarize your weekly sales or customer notes into a quick overview. And this is not about replacing people. It's about creating efficiencies, saving you 10 to 30 minutes at a time over and over again, so your energy can go where it matters. And the third item is basic contact or CRM tracking. And if you're not familiar with CRM is customer relationship management. It doesn't have to be a fancy system. It can be a shared spreadsheet that everybody updates. It can be a simple low-cost CRM tool, or even a well-organized notebook, as long as everyone actually uses it. And it's going to track who you talk to, what they bought, and when you should follow up. The goal is moving information out of your head and into a system. But one important caution: don't start with what's the best tool. Start with, where am I losing time and money again and again? Is it chasing unpaid invoices? Is it miscommunications on orders? Is it trying to keep up with customer messages? Pick just one recurring pain point and ask, is there a tool that could help with this one thing? So one pain point at a time. That's how you scale without overwhelming yourself or your team. So let's pull all this together. The framework that I want you to remember is see, fix, then fuel. See what's really happening by measuring a few key things. Fix those broken or chaotic steps, especially after the sale. Then fuel what's working instead of doing more of everything. Remember, scaling only makes sense when you have consistent demand, you're making money per sale, you have a basic repeatable process. As you grow, what usually hurts is everything after the sale, the invoicing, the delivery, the follow-up, the handling mistakes. Know that clarity is non-negotiable. And remember that when everything is important, nothing is important. Your brain needs to know what to focus on. And your future self will never win against today's fire unless you create a structure. So protect time each week to work on your business. Identify a few key numbers that you actually want to track and create simple systems that reduce the chaos and protect your mental health. So let me leave you with a simple action that could be a good takeaway for you. Tomorrow morning, before you open or check your email, check in with yourself, body, mind, and spirit, and your source. Maybe that's God. Breathe slowly in and out, thinking of 3 things that fill you with gratitude. After you've done that exercise, take 10 minutes to think about your business operations and write down one thing that's brought good customers last month and one thing or one step after the sale that constantly causes headaches. And that's your roadmap. Do more of the first, fix or simplify the second. If you do that week after week, you're already scaling well on purpose, not by accident. Rural and ag businesses already know how to work hard. The next edge is in working smarter in a way that protects your land, your people, and your health. Scaling well is about building a business your future self is proud to run. One that grows, takes care of your customers and your community and your family, and doesn't cost you your mental health along the way. I'll stop there and open it up for some questions or examples from your own operations that we can perhaps walk through together. Thanks.
Thank you, Renee. That was wonderful.
Thanks.
Really, really good message. We have had a few questions come in through the chat here, so I'm going to go ahead and ask the first one.
Okay.
So Cindy from Goodland, Kansas. Hi, Cindy. Thanks for joining today. She says that this all sounds good. We're really tiny. It's mostly just me and maybe one other person. Does scaling well even apply to a shop our size?
Cindy, thanks for your question. Yes, it absolutely applies. And honestly, it's even more important when you're small. When it's just you or you and someone else, every mistake, every missed invoice, every bottleneck hits harder. And so you know already that scaling well at your size might simply mean that you can only handle a small uptick in your percentage without working more hours and without dropping more balls. And so you don't need a big system. You simply need a way to track your sales and follow-ups, whether that's through a notebook or a spreadsheet, creating 1 to 2 checklists for after the sale steps, and protecting 1 hour a week to review what worked and what's broken. And scaling for a very small business, a little more volume, a lot more predictability, and a lot less stress can actually help grow in a meaningful way. Hope that helps.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our next one has to do with some of the AI tools that you mentioned and some of the digital aspect of it. And this is coming from Joe in Belleville, Kansas. But he says, we're in a rural area. Our customers don't really like tech. Does digital invoicing or AI really make sense for us?
I'm a big believer in meeting your customers where they are. You don't have to force your customers into something that doesn't fit their habits, right? So think of the customers, think of it as tools in like 2 types of buckets. You've got customer facing, where if your customers are preferring paper invoices and checks, you keep that option. But you can still print invoices from a simple system instead of handwriting everything, or you can create records that are digitally kept. And the second piece is the second bucket is from a back office and behind the scenes standpoint, AI can help you draft letters, emails, social posts, and really get messages out to customers. And they don't need to know it's AI, because you can train yourself in AI with just 10 to 15 minutes a day of practice to learn your tone. But there's a digital system that can track who owes what, and if the customer pays by check, and those tools can be adopted in several ways to support your current customer behavior rather than changing it overnight. And it's just a matter of what pieces are you going to pull in to make it work for you. And it may take some practice.
Absolutely. The last question that came in is from Carrie in Wichita, and Carrie wanted us to know that she is part of a smaller equipment dealership that also offers servicing. So she said that our biggest issue is we're always late on invoicing. Where do we even start with fixing that? And I know that you alluded to some of that with just fixing the processes and that sort of thing, but I thought maybe the two of us could, you can start, and I might just join in a little bit, sharing a little bit about HitchPin's instant invoicing. And but I'd like for you to take that first, and then I'll wrap it up.
Yeah. Well, what I would say first is just take the tiny step of making it regular, like meaning 10 to 15 minutes every week at the same time that you're going to go in and work on this particular thing, and then create processes around that, create some visibility around what that process looks like. You can create it as a dashboard. You can create it on a piece of paper and stick it to your computer, and then make sure that you are following those processes. That's what I would say off the cuff.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And Carrie, definitely, I think this goes back to a little bit to Renee of the example you shared of the operation that, they put the tablets in the truck and made it so that everybody had access to the ability to send the invoice quickly. And then also adding it to the process of like, okay, the minute that, for example, in Carrie's stage, the minute that the service is delivered, that service provider should be able to easily just send an invoice on behalf of the company directly to that customer, whether the customer's there with them or not. And so that's the really cool part about HitchPin's. We have instant invoicing, and then we're also getting ready to roll out Workbench, but it takes less than a few seconds to send an invoice. And you can do that. You can send it digitally via text. You can send it via email. You can have a QR code that comes up, and if the customer's right there with you, they can scan the QR code and pay. They can pay with a credit card. They can pay with a ACH transfer. But the cool thing about that is it fits in really well with that repeatable, scalable process that you talked about in your message. And it's also easy for everybody on the team to use as long as you provide them with the tools to use it.
And I would just say that, what I've seen of that from HitchPin's products is that having those integrations, it's like a Lego snap-on module that can pop into your existing processes, is really, really helpful. So don't discount that something that HitchPin has created could actually snap in and flow straight into your QuickBooks. And that just, that eliminates duplication and errors and all kinds of things. And they're worth a try, right? I mean, it's worth exploring those different capabilities in order to make businesses more efficient, which therefore helps them make more money.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today for our Lunch and Learn. Thank you so much, Renee, for today's message. So realistic, so applicable though to today's businesses, and so we really do appreciate you. So thank you.
So much.
Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy these early days of spring. Follow HitchPin on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Bye.
Thanks.